Breaking news, for 3 years now, the best defensive midfielder in the world has been missing. At the time, no one could catch up to him because he was that good. From the highs of playing in the Champions League final and winning man of the match to getting injured in the Saudi Pro League, what exactly happened to Ngolo Kante? Kante was born in 1991 in Paris, France, and at the time, I'm pretty sure his main goal wasn't to play football. No, it was to survive. See, Kante was born to Malian working parents in Paris, but they saw something special in their kid. That made them name him after a king. Kante's parents named him after Ngolo Kante, a Malian king who was famous back in the 18th century and hoped their kid would one day be able to live up to his name. Kante was just like any regular kid, living life and enjoying growing up in the city, until 1998, at the age of 7, when a historic event happened that would change his life. This was the year France won the World Cup. After watching his country lift the biggest prize in the game, Kante immediately knew he wanted to go pro. But his journey to the top of the game was far from easy. Due to his lack of height, Kante always got overlooked by many teams early on. He was rejected by a lot of academies early on, including Rennes and Lorient. In the end, Kante got accepted by JS Suresnes and stayed there for more than a decade until 2010. This year, he joined the reserve team of Bologna, who were in the 9th tier of French football, and at the time, Kante was ready to give up and activate his plan B. See, because of how slow his career had been progressing, Kante figured he needed to have a backup plan just in case football didn't work out for him. So Kante actually went to college and got a degree in accounting, all set to become a banker and trade stocks or something like that. Until 2013, when his performances for Bologna had gotten so good, a top team was ready to take a chance on him. SM Caen, and they wanted Kante. Straight away, he was in the first team and played all 38 games as they fought their way to promotion. Accountant? Nah, instead of coaching figures, he was crunching tackles instead. In 2014-15, Kante played in 37 of the 38 matches his team played in the league that season. The only game he missed was through suspension, and now guys, after 2 successful seasons in the French Ligue 1, Kante's career was about to take flight, because that's when this club came calling and changed Kante's career. At first, Kante's signing for Leicester City was like some dude watching EAFC bring up random transfers, with Leicester City only paying $8 million for his services. But in the end, it turned out to be a huge bargain. His 2015-16 season with Leicester City was insane. He finished first in the league for the most tackles won with 126, had the most interceptions with 156, completed 11 blocks, and finished with 1,466 passes. Sensational! These were just the numbers. Anyone who watched Kante and Leicester play that season would have immediately recognized how good he was. Together with Danny Drinkwater in midfield, Kante had formed the core of a Leicester City team that would go on to shock the world. At 5,000 to 1 odds, it was like watching a fairy tale come to life. Yep, they won the Premier League. Even though Kante got snubbed for the individual awards, he was by far one of the standout players of the season, and his form for Leicester earned him his first international tournament with Les Bleus. Yep, he was part of the French team that reached the final of the 2016 Euros on home soil. Unfortunately, Kante didn't play in the final. Now, I'm not saying that's why France lost, but I'm just saying that if they had him on, it could have been different. Back to football, and in Kante's mind, he would have been preparing for another season at Leicester, this time with Champions League football on his mind. But the plan was about to change because one club had seen enough and was determined to get Kante's services. Crazy how this works. While Kante and Leicester were on the up, Chelsea hit a huge low. They were the defending champions coming into 2015-16, but their title defense went horribly wrong. They ended up finishing 10th. With a new manager at the bridge, they immediately identified Kante as a primary target to help fix the club and were determined to get him no matter the cost. So even when Leicester slammed a $40.5 million bid on him, they paid without delay, and Kante was a Blue. If 2015-16 was good, 2016-17 was even better. He led the league for tackles with 127, had 82 interceptions, completed 275 recoveries, and for a small guy at 5'4", he won 19 aerial duels. The man can jump. Playing in Antonio Conte's 3-4-3 formation, Kante also proved he could chip in with his fair share of numbers, despite the hard work too. 6 goal contributions all season. But his biggest achievement that season had to be finally subscribing to footballers. He'd actually done it. Oh yeah, he was also a league champion again. This time, the Premier League was determined to give Kante his flowers. He had the Premier League team of the season for the second year in a row, and later won the big one, Premier League Player of the Season. In 2017-18, Kante and Chelsea actually kinda dipped a bit. They finished 5th in the league and did manage to win the FA Cup. But this was a club level. Later in the summer, Kante achieved the biggest result of his career. Coming into the 2018 World Cup, France had an outside chance of winning it. I mean, no one really had them as serious contenders. But together with Paul Pogba, Didier Deschamps had revamped his French midfield into a Pogba and Kante duo. And it worked to perfection because at the end of the competition in July, Kante was a world champion. This guy was the engine room for France in the competition. It was like he was playing with extra lungs. Over the next 3 years, Kante and Chelsea conquered the world. 2019 Europa League winners, won the Champions League in 2021, was named man of the match, and even won the 2021 Club World Cup. But you see guys, this was where it peaked for Kante, because after that the best defensive midfielder in the world kinda disappeared. Kante was struggling with injuries. In turn, this was beginning to affect his form on the pitch, and the 2022 version of Kante looked far from his brilliant best. At first, this one had people like me thinking Kante had probably played way too many games and his body was struggling to keep up. Until I did a little digging back and realized Kante's career had actually been in decline for years. Kante had twisted his knee in training before the Europa League final, but because he badly wanted to make the team, he risked playing with his injured knee, pushing his body to the limits, and ultimately forced Kante to start having a series of injuries that never stopped. See, Kante's style of play had always been high intensity running and energy. The dude never stops, but with his energies he couldn't keep up. In fact, it was so bad that for the first time in his career, when Chelsea faced Real Madrid in the quarter-final first leg, Kante was subbed off at halftime. Not because he was injured, but because he couldn't run as much anymore. A mixture of knee problems, groin injuries, and knocks made Kante miss up to 16 games with injury for Chelsea that season. And in 2022-23 it got even worse. It's like he didn't exist that season because he was rarely fit. Kante's injuries were so bad it cost him a spot on the French World Cup team in Qatar, and in total he missed close to 7 months of action with a recurring hamstring injury. Kante missed a total of 38 games that season, and at this point he knew the gig was up. It was either he left now or risked his status of becoming a hero at the club. Chelsea had switched owners, and the guys Kante knew at the club when he came in were all gone. The new owners, represented by Todd Boehly, made their idea clear. They were after younger players to build the core of the team. Kante's injuries and age too meant he didn't fit into the club's new plans, and he probably knew there was no point in asking for a contract extension because he wouldn't get one. So when the offer arrived, Kante decided to call it quits on his time in Europe and head off to the Saudi Pro League. It's 2023-24 now, and Kante currently plays for Al Ittihad. So far, he's managed to stay fit and look like the version of the player he was years back. He's also got the numbers up in the league too, with 2 goals and 5 assists in 25 games this season. Looking back at it, in his prime years at Chelsea and for France, Kante was undeniably the best holding midfielder in the world. He became so good, he was even getting nominated for the Ballon d'Or. However, the injuries became too much, ultimately forcing him to end his time at Chelsea faster than he'd have expected. But he's still a legend, in my books at least. Why? Because he's already subscribed to Footballers. What a guy!